Hello and welcome to the next video in the Privacy Compliance How-To series. This is going to be a continuation from the last video on setting up the audit configurations for the ClickAll Plus solution. I'll be saying a lot of things that are going to require that you understand some context provided in that last video. Let's dive in. So in this video, we are going to find out how we refine the code to make it do what we want to do. Now, if we go to the GitHub repository, there's instructions and comments that are giving us direction. Please read those and understand what they're trying to get across. This is going to be more short form in this video. So ultimately, we need to provide a selector, a CSS selector, which we're not going to go too in depth as to what that is, but we have documentations and there's lots of resources online as to understand how to use CSS selectors if that's a new concept to you. And the purpose is we want to get a CSS selector for every type of element on the website that we want to click on or interact with or test. And so also for each type of element on the site, we want to create a new object, specifically from here to here. We'd basically duplicate this within this array for each element type. So the selector goes here. We give a name to the element just for our own understanding and organization. This will come into play later, understanding and interpreting results in the reporting. It's going to mainly help with reporting. That's basically it. So to show you kind of a fast forward to what this might look like in a fully completed form, we have this example where on the ObservePoint website, I wanted to click on all the headers, all of our primary CTAs, and all of our footer links. The audit that we've been looking at is scanning 200 pages. And on those 200 pages, it is clicking on each of these in separate groups. So each of these will also have the corresponding selector to identify that element. I can take this one, for example, and we can go to observepoint.com to see what that might look like. Okay, so I'm going to open up our DevTools, and this is going to be, if you're doing ClickAll Plus, a handy bit of code, in fact, essential to get you the right CSS selector, document.querySelector all. And we're going to put single quotes in here and paste. This is our selector. The intention is that this selector should point to every element that we intend to click on in this type or family of elements. So this is for CTAs. You can see that it's appropriately pointing to all of our CTAs. We can go down the page and see each CTA is highlighted if I hover over each of these. And that's how you can know if your selector is pointing on all the essential elements of that type and no more. You probably don't want it to point to other elements that are not of the same type. Now, writing a CSS selector is a science in and of itself that we're not going to have time to go into, just like I had mentioned at the beginning. But that's the idea. You'll have to generate your CSS selector, and then you simply put it in the on-page action in the JavaScript of your audit. And again, create a duplicate of each of these objects for each element type that you wish to click on. That is effectively all we need to worry about at this step. This is the most important step. And as a review from our last call, make sure you turn on Prevent Nav and match all pages. If we were doing this from scratch, just for the sake of extra clarity, adding an execute JavaScript action is very easy. You click Add Action, you choose Execute JavaScript, and then you paste your code in here after you've done refining it and adding the appropriate CSS selector settings. There's even more that this can do that is not in the scope of the video today, but we can have more complex interactions with the site beyond just a click. What I have described is how you have this code perform clicks, but you can use this optional function, action, to do all sorts of things such as inputs or other sorts of interactions with the site. The next video is going to focus on how do we then interpret the reports. So with that said, we will see you on the next one.